Spirit Airlines might be going bankrupt. Spirit Airlines considers Chapter 11 bankruptcy amid financial struggles with debt deadline. And we'll get into the details of what specifically is going on with Spirit and why they're having problems, but really all of airlines are struggling. The entire industry is not in a good place right now. It's not just Spirit Airlines. We can see their stock has been falling significantly over the past 5 years, down 95, almost 96%, but also Delta Airlines over the past 5 years is down 3%. And for those of you saying that that's not very much, imagine if you invested your money and then 5 years later you had zero return. That's a bad thing. You want companies to be going up if you have investments in them, not staying the same, or in this case, losing 3%. But we can check the other airlines as well. As you can see here, JetBlue Airways is down 60% of the past 5 years. American Airlines is down by 57% in the past 5 years. Southwest Airlines, same story, down 43% in the past 5 years. Frontier, and I know you're starting to see a pattern, down 70% in the past 5 years, but we're not done there. United Airlines is down 30% in the past 5 years. Even though they've had a pretty good jump recently, up about 57%, they're still way below where they were previously. Whereas in contrast to all of these airline companies, if you had invested your money over the past 5 years in the S&P 500, you would have had basically a 100% return. If you had put $1,000, $10,000, or $100,000 in the S&P 500 5 years ago, today you would have $200,000. It would have doubled. Whereas if you had put your money in any one of these others, you would have either A, lost it completely, or absolute best case scenario, you would have had no change at all over the past 5 years. Airlines, all of them in the United States, are struggling. And Spirit declaring bankruptcy, possibly, is really just the first domino, and we may see others follow once that happens. Canton Report talks more about this, and it says shares of Spirit Airlines plunged 37% to a record low on Friday, after a report that the ultra-low-cost carrier was discussing a potential bankruptcy filing. The airline has been losing money despite strong travel demand, raising doubts about its ability to manage looming debt maturities. Spirit has operated out of Akron Canton Airport since 2016. Its long-term debt and finance leases amounted to about $3.06 billion, excluding current maturities as of December 31st. The airline has until October 21st, so just about 10 days, to refinance $1.1 billion in loyalty bonds due next year. The airline was in discussions with bondholders over the terms of a potential bankruptcy filing, the Wall Street Journal reported, adding that a filing, should it happen, would not be imminent. So Spirit Airlines has tons and tons of money in debts, like $3 billion worth of money in debts that it needs to pay, and it really just can't. So what it's trying to do is enter negotiations with the companies that it owes money to, basically probably saying something like, accept these new terms, these refinancings or lower interest rate, or else the company is just going to go bankrupt and will have to liquidate. If Spirit Airlines were to go bankrupt and liquidate, very probably their creditors would not get the amount of money they're actually owed. They're owed $3 billion. Spirit Airlines goes bankrupt, liquidates, sells all their planes to like Delta or United, and they get back maybe $500 million to $1 billion. The creditors still come out way, way, way below where they should be. So probably Spirit is using this in their negotiations, saying if you want a chance to get your money back, then you're going to need to give us better terms on your deal so that we can actually reinvest enough of our money, not into debt, but into making our services better. Because if Spirit goes belly up and bankrupt, then the creditors as well as Spirit lose everything. So there are several reasons that Spirit is failing. Some of them are specific to Spirit, but others are just issues playing the entire airlines industry, with Spirit really just being caught in that riptide and is the first of possibly many airlines to drown as this wave gets worse. But the first major issue that's specific to Spirit is the JetBlue merger that was blocked by a US judge not too long ago, earlier this year. Justice Department statements on JetBlue terminating the acquisition of Spirit Airlines. So JetBlue Airways Corporations announced today that it had abandoned a $3.8 billion acquisition of Spirit Airlines. In January, the U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts blocked the transition because it violated, quote, the core principles of antitrust law to protect the United States markets and its market participants from anti-competitive harm. Basically just saying that we didn't want them to merge together because then there would be too few airlines not competing against each other, and consumers would lose out because the airlines could unfairly jack up the prices or lower the service, yada, yada, yada. Basically saying this violated antitrust laws for this merger to happen, so the judge judge blocked it. Today's decision by JetBlue is yet another victory for the Justice Department's work on behalf of American consumers, said Attorney General Merrick B. Garland. The Justice Department proved in court that a merger between JetBlue and Spirit would have caused tens of millions of travelers to face higher fares and fewer choices. We will continue to rigorously enforce the nation's antitrust laws. Now, generally, I am very in favor of antitrust rulings, but here I'm very hesitant because if this failure to merge causes Spirit to go bankrupt, then it's going to be sold off either as pieces and the company is liquidated or bought out by another company anyway. It essentially amounts to the same things with a much more painful process happening if they have to go bankrupt in order for that process to take place. So that issue impacts just Spirit, but the reality of the entire airline industry situation is that it is incredibly expensive to fly, and the flying experience is essentially objectively worse than it has been ever since commercial airlines became commercialized. Almost all budget airlines are losing money, and even the big ones are missing projections, and basically everyone is unhappy. The small ones are supposed to be cheap to get you from point A to point B. They're losing money, so investors aren't going to be interested in investing in them. The big ones are supposed to make money and have great experiences that treat you like royalty while you're in the air, and they just don't have that, so consumers are upset, and they're also missing projections. Like, I think it was United that recently missed their projections, their earning projections, and their stock took a hit. No one is winning here. The airlines are losing out because they're losing on profits. The investors are losing out because they're losing out on their investments, and the customers are losing out because they have more expensive air travel for worse experiences. There are no victors in this scenario. This feels like a rare instance where everyone is losing. The investors are losing, the company itself is losing, and the consumers of the product are also losing. And it's not even like the demand itself isn't there. This is from Statista. Annual growth in global air traffic passenger demand from 2006 to 2023 with a forecast for 2024. And I don't have an account, but basically what you're seeing is right here. This is 2020 when there was a massive drop in demand. But then right after that in 2021, it spiked significantly. In 2022, it spikes tremendously, basically the biggest spike in demand for air travel in recorded history. In 2023, it spikes hugely, and in 2024, it's still going down, but as you can see here, it's still way above where it's been basically any of the other 10 or so years that consumer demand for airlines is being tracked. So consumer demand is definitely there. People have both never wanted to travel more and never been more unable to travel than they are right now in late 2024. Now, the solutions for this are tremendously complicated, and honestly, on the business side, I really don't have any idea what companies can do to make themselves profitable. But on the consumer side, I have one really easy solution. Trains. People want travel that is cheaper, more convenient, and faster than a car over long to semi-long distances. With trains, there's no TSA, the travel is faster, the costs are lower, and you're far less likely to have delays with trains than you are with planes. If you're not traveling a super long distance or internationally, trains seem like the absolute best option to address the fact that people want to travel, they want to go places, but they are just sick and tired of the poor experiences that they're having while doing it. Thanks for watching.